Hello, and welcome to Cooking with Charles. This is a little different because I've already recorded this video and somehow the audio didn't work, which you don't really know or care about. But anyway, regardless, what you're about to see is a collection of random video clips that I put together in order to illustrate a recipe that I've cooked 8, 9, maybe even 10 times since quarantine, which is a vegan Sag Paneer. Now, that might sound amazing to the vegan people and terrible to the non-vegan people, but I will say it's one of the most high-protein meals that you can kind of cook. So any of those health and fitness nuts out there, this is like a perfect meal for you guys to cook. And the way that works is, instead of using paneer, we use tofu. And instead of using rice, I use quinoa. And a few additional like smart things. So in order to give the tofu a cheesy flavor, I use some nutritional yeast. For the sweetener, I use monk fruit, which is like a really good replacement for sugar. I don't necessarily use all the spices to make it easy so that you can do it during whatever the time is. Like the problem with sag is generally like spinach goes off really quickly, so I use frozen spinach, so like throughout it too. So there's a few like top tips as you sort of like go through it. But anyway, so you're about to see is me an hour ago going through the ingredients, which I previously had here and I was presenting. So hopefully this will be interesting, or at least good. But anyway, regardless, this recipe comes from these amazing guys who have a book called Bosch and a website called Bosch. Actually, you can watch this recipe made by professionals on the Bosch website, and I highly recommend you do that. But regardless, whenever you're cooking, the most important thing is the wine. So anyway, enjoy the rest, and in a few seconds, well, probably for you about 10 minutes, you'll see me again at the end, and for you time has passed, but for me it would have been about 30 seconds because I'm about to record the second part of the video. Alright, for this recipe, as we're making sag paneer, we're going to need spinach. Ideally this would be fresh spinach, but I was out for it today, so you can get some chopped frozen ones. We're going to need tofu, ideally extra firm. We need 1 onion, quinoa, or if you prefer, you can obviously use rice. Then for the base, we're going to need some tomatoes. These can be fresh tomatoes. I just happen to have a can open ready. Some coconut milk. You can also use soy cream or any other cream-based things too, depending on how long you have to cook. Then for our spices, we got some garlic, cumin seeds, coriander, garam masala. I use some chili flakes here. Salt. The things that we are missing are fenugreek powder and turmeric, which unfortunately I don't have right now. We're also ideally going to need some oil, ideally nut oil, but I only have coconut oil, which I feel like is a little bit of a cheat. For sweet, I'm using a little bit of sweetener here, monk fruit sweetener, which is a great replacement for sugar, but if you have sugar, you can use that too. And then a super ingredient for every vegetarian or vegan should always be to have nutritional yeast powder, which makes things taste cheesy. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is figure out how to use tofu correctly. Alright, the first thing we've got to do is we've got to sort out the tofu. So tofu comes in a little liquid, so the first thing we're going to do is cut a slit in the top, and we're just going to drain out as much liquid as possible from there then. Next we're going to place the tofu on some kitchen paper, add some more kitchen paper onto the top, and then finally we're going to add a saucepan full of water on the top, which you basically push down and squeeze out as much liquid as possible. Ideally you'd leave that for a while, but I'm lazy, so now what we're going to do is cube this, bump, like so, and now we're going to make the cheesy sauce to go on top of it. So we add 3 tablespoons of oil, and then about 4 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. That was quite a lot, oops. And now we're going to add some salt, and then mix that together, which creates this paste. And now we're going to add the tofu and put it in, and then we're going to mix it up. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to put it into a pan, and we're going to put it in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit or about 200 degrees Celsius for about 20 minutes. Next up is just to make the curry. So we're just heating up some oil, and we're going to add some cumin seeds in, and them up until the flavors are released. Next we're going to add the onions in until they are translucent. So garlic and some chili flakes. And you can add ginger in there too if you want to. Next we're going to add the spices in, which for me is the garam masala and some coriander. Like so. So the recipe here calls for 1 tomato, but I don't think that's enough, so I normally add in about 1/3 of a large can of tomatoes, or half a can of small tomatoes, or I guess a can. That makes sense, right? Well, that's cooking. Now we're going to do some quinoa. So for that, I'm going to add 1 cup of quinoa, which should do about 2 meals, and then 2 cups of water, and bring that to a boil to simmer until basically all the water's kind of gone. Next, we're going to add some extra salt and a little bit of monk fruit sweetener, or sugar if you prefer that, and a bit of water for the spinach to come in within a second. And now to add in all of that spinach, which will take a while. And there you go. We're gonna let this cook down for quite a few minutes now. Ideally you'd have some fresh stuff in first, then your frozen stuff, and slowly sort of like bring it together. But this is gonna work out fine for now. At this point the spinach has been cooking for a while, so it's starting to wilt down. If it was fresh it would look much nicer, I'll be honest. So recipe calls for soy cream. I never have soy cream, I just use some coconut milk, so I use half a carton of coconut milk in here. Like so. Now as that's been cooking down, hopefully our special tofu paneer is now ready. So look at that, nice and beautiful. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add 2/3 of this into that, mix it around, cook it for a bit. We're going to leave a 1/3 to add to the top to make it look delish. Alright, so now we've got our sag paneer, our extra paneer, and our quinoa basically ready to go. Now's the important part, the plating. I have my plate ready, and in 3, 2, 1, and there we are. Sag paneer vegan style. Welcome back. It's the end of the video. So much time has passed since you saw me earlier, and yet like it's exactly the same. I look exactly the same as I did 10 minutes ago, or what seemed in the video to be about 35 minutes. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the recipe. Like I said at the very start of the video, it comes from a Bosch, which is really good. I highly recommend it. This is actually the unhealthy version of this book. There's a healthy version of the book, which I wish I bought, but it's good for inspiration. I'm a big fan of replacing stuff with other stuff. Anyway, in quarantine, it's very easy to get used to cooking the same recipes over and over again. And I've definitely done it with this recipe, but I still want to sort of like share it out with everybody here. Looking forward to seeing everyone else's videos. And happy Memorial Day, even though you would have seen this a few days in the future. This is making no sense at all, and that's okay, because what originally happened is I would have had a couple of glasses of wine, and now I've had many glasses of wine. So anyway, thank you for enjoying the recipe. If you would like more of these, tell me. If you have better ideas for Taskmasters, tell me. And on that note, have a lovely day, evening, morning, wherever you're watching this now. Live your truth, climb every mountain, let the beat go on. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for watching.